to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And why are you whispering?
I didn't whisper.
It sounded like you. Hey, it was a very low-key, this is Lisa. That's about the most low-key I've heard you be yet. So, yeah.
Do you want like a, this is Lisa? No. Sorry.
No.
There you go.
No.
You got it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so today is this our 40th?
It is our 40th.
God, it's 40 and old like us.
You snorted. Our pod is celebrating its 40th episode.
So, how was your 40th? My 40th was awful because
mine was in COVID.
Yeah, well, mine was like at the tail end of COVID too. Yeah. So, yeah. But
mine was 40th and COVID-y. So
yeah, so was mine. But this one's not. This one is COVID free, hopefully.
Yay!
Yeah, but this is our pod's 40th episode. 40 is a huge number. It's when I started thinking of life not as, one disposable tissue right after the next, So I don't know where that
we just got
tissue
weird.
analogy. We just got no. I stopped thinking of life started getting really real at 40. You're like, oh my gosh, 40, like halfway to 80.
I really liked 30. That was
30
fun.
was a good age. 20 was
like
awful.
30. Oh, 20 was fine.
For you, 20 was awful for me.
I like 30. 40 kind of hit me. And I don't even want to talk about 50. We're not talking about it.
Yeah, I don't even think we should even tell them when our birthdays are anymore.
No.
You did a couple of weeks ago, and that was great. And I loved all the happy birthdays I got. But I'm glad you didn't tell them my age. So
I didn't.
Because I am past 40 a little bit. A few years.
You're right behind me.
Yes, you are what, 6 months older than me,
Ahead
7 months? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
And that's all we're going to share.
About being over 40. Yeah. And life is not just one big disposable box of tissues,
There you go.
I don't know where that analogy came from, but it's the only one I could pull out my butt.
That's weird. That's weird. Well, and so we're talking about 40 and we have part 2 of the Blue Light Rapist. So serious again. And Amber's laughing. We're not laughing at this.
No,
we're not laughing at this.
I'm laughing at us because we're just kind of grasping at straws here, and we're usually not. I'm usually not in an open space doing this either, but my family's on the other side of the house, and I have made them be quiet for this. So if you hear a door slam or a cry, it's just my boys. So. Or
and
cry for help.
Cry for help. Yes, they might. You might get some of that. Okay, so you ready to get started? And then we'll do some short business at the end.
Okay. You'll probably have to remind me, but sure.
Okay. So, like we mentioned, this is the Blue Light Rapist Part 2. We did have some feedback, and I think positive feedback, but like we said before in the first episode, kind of, and we're kind of past the victim explaining, but there still could be some content that is mature for sure. So just, what is that? Listener discretion.
Listener discretion is advised.
There you go. So in part 1, we left off in July of 1997. And this was with the final known victim, Shannon, of the Blue Light Rapist. So we discussed that. So if you are listening to this episode and you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen to episode 39 right now. Just hang it up. So
bye.
Just hang it up and come back. We discussed how the Arkansas State Police formed along with all the other law enforcement agencies in the areas that were involved. They formed this Blue Light Rapist task force right after Shannon's because everything was just really high alert going on. Just, there had been 6 known rape victims. And again, we had talked about there had been some home invasions that they didn't even correlate to the Blue Light Rapist. So he had several victims. So the team of investigators continued to interview Shannon and go back to the other victims to kind of glean from them everything that they could possibly get, because they're like, this is real, Based on the overall statements, they felt like one individual had done these crimes. They kept hearing, he's a smoker, he's a white male,
he smells horrible.
Yeah, he smells horrible. He's, 30-ish years old. He has a really deep, gruff voice. He's very hairy. Like, all of these things aligned. They were exactly the same. What they did see is that the vehicle used in these scenarios wasn't the same. So that's what they did notice. Everything else was lining up. One victim knew it was an Oldsmobile, but another victim and Shannon described other vehicles. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but one of them described like an SUV. Special Agent Hayes McWhirter had said every police department was looking at all the evidence. So he and his partner, Jerry Digman, they went to talk to the police department there in Forest City because they had some attempted rapes or rapes that, they were looking at, just wanting to question, because they're gleaning. I mean, they're just trying for everything that they can grasp there. And these were the home invasions that we had mentioned. Upon this visit, this is when the Arkansas State Police learned about Todd Birmingham. Remember that lady had come into the Forest City and mentioned to Todd. So this is when, at this moment in 97 is when.
Because she had met him before and she had heard his voice, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And in fact, yes, we were just going to say that. So his full legal name was Robert Todd Birmingham. And the Birmingham is kind of spelt different. If you're Googling or whatever, it's like Burminghamm. So it's not with an I. This was the individual that the attempted rape victim stated she knew, like you said, based on his voice and such, that she had met him 6 years prior to him kind of coming into her home with her husband, like she had met him with her husband. McWhirter dived into that home invasion file and learned he had used duct tape on this woman, which was exactly the same as what he had done to Shannon. Once they zeroed in on Birmingham, they did find out that he had been arrested for night hunting, which is illegal. So you're not supposed to night hunt.
Forget about that. Not that I hunt at all, but
yes, I think we talked about that in the Boys on the Track episode, because in fact, the boys were out doing some night hunting actually. So in this incident, Birmingham had actually fled from the game warden. And this was on January 20th of 1996. And remember, he had 2 rape victims that month alone and 1 attempted who got away. So basically, I think it was only a few days after one of the rape victims is when he was arrested by the game warden. Also, he had a stolen rifle on him. This was all and this was according to the True Crime Odyssey podcast based on the book by Timothy Kessler. But the game warden did note that not only did he flee the game warden, he was night, hunting, but he also had a stolen rifle on his, belongings. So he was a hot mess of a man.
Sounds like it.
Yes. So McWhirter sought out that game warden. So he kind of had found that out. So he actually went to talk to the game warden to find out more information about that incident and the arrest, and to see if they could get a description of the vehicle Birmingham was driving that night. They were given a license plate number of the vehicle, and this plate number came back to an Oldsmobile.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Same as described by one of the victims. That victim was in that same month of that incident. Additionally, this vehicle had once, when they looked up the registrar's office with that license plate, that same vehicle came back to being owned by Todd Birmingham and his wife.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. Mm-hmm. So it's getting real. So this is very quickly, I want to say this is probably in August, right after Shannon's incident in July. So
and this
they
is
also
in the year
learned,
what? Just refresh the year, please.
Sorry, this is in 1997.
Okay, 97.
And the whole thing kind of started in 1995.
So this is a 2-year kind of thing going on here. Wow. To me,
Yes.
that's so crazy because, I turned 16 in 97 and that's when I really started. I mean, I drove before that, but with someone, but that's when I started driving alone. And I just remember everyone being so scared during that summer in particular, that 97 summer.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
everyone
because
didn't know when he
really,
was going to show up.
yeah, and Shannon's incident would have happened just in like right down in Cabot, right
Which was
after you
close to
turned.
us.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would have been July, and you would have, at the end of May, you would have started driving. So that was very just right there in that window.
A lot of our parents, your parents, mine, everyone was worried to death about any of us driving alone during, the nighttime hours, especially in these long, desolate highways we have, all over the place in White County and Lonoke County and this general area.
Yeah. It was scary. So
Scary
scary.
times.
Ugh, awful. Okay, so McWhirter, they also learned that on January 26th of 1996, just a few days after the game warden incident, that Todd was found guilty of a DWI and spent 10 days in jail. So they noted this, so I felt to note that too. So yeah. After all this information was coming together, the Arkansas State Police decided to go talk to Todd. The program, Dead Silent, that I mentioned before, that had a lot of good information, they noted that in September of 1997, so just a couple of, basically 6 weeks maybe after Shannon's incident, that Arkansas State Police investigator Brenda Hale drove to Wynne to go interview Todd's wife. Before going to the interview, she kind of looked at McWhirter and she asked him, like, what should I say if Todd shows up? Kind of like, what should she do there? So McWhirter said if he comes in, just tell him you're looking for someone that doesn't have any hair on their back, kind of a reverse situation. Investigator Hale, she goes to interview Todd's wife, and she lets her know they're just investigating a kidnapping and assault case in the area, trying to be real nonchalant. And during this interview, sure enough, Todd pulls up. And he immediately jumps out of his truck. He is super agitated. He's throwing, he's a piece. And he's throwing a fit. And he's, being like, well, why is the state police, harassing my wife, quote unquote. So investigator Hale calms him down and just kind of looks at him and is like, we're just investigating a kidnapping and assault in the area, and that we're specifically looking for someone that doesn't have any hair on their back. So he's a real cocky one. So he just is like, well, I have lots of hair on my back, and proceeds to show her
oh Lord,
the hair on his back. And he states, I guess I'm not who you're looking for. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And this was all according to the Dead Silent. So Hale does ask him, so she's just kind of taking this in, and she asked him for a DNA sample. She's like, let me have, some DNA just so you can fully be ruled out. So he immediately refuses to give the sample. He said, the only way that you're getting any of my blood is if you have a warrant. That's what he said. So he kind of turned real, kind of flipped there.
Right.
So within a few days of this, so everything, they are just working as quickly as possible. So within a few days, that's exactly what they did. They got a court order to get a blood sample, a urine sample, and they got hair samples from his head and pubic region. So
didn't take any from his back, because it sounds like he had plenty to spare.
That is so true. Just the fact that he had plenty, and they do take, anyway, further on, I'll remind me of something. But in the Dead Silent show, they stated they immediately sent all the samples straight away to the crime lab in Little Rock for analyzing. So again, they were just trying to work as quickly as possible. They were very, very concerned. So all at the same time as this was happening, they were continuing their investigation by talking with associates and friends of Birmingham. So they were just seeking out everything they could. So there was a man that was renting, and they didn't list a name for him or anything, but renting a home from Todd's father. So J.R. Howard, like we mentioned, he's retired now, but he was a special agent with the Arkansas State Police. So he went to check out the house, kind of knowing Todd would have access to this home. He found the house fit the very detailed description that Shannon had supplied. So remember we had discussed.
Gosh.
Yes, she had. Remember how? I mean, she was very, very smart, and she had remembered stuff about like how many turns he took to get to the home. She could tell them all about the porch of the home. She could tell them like everything about the flooring. Like she just was very detailed. Like she had shared just every single bit. So like the layout of the house, even like she just could recall it all. So like we mentioned before, within a few days of the court order, the crime lab was working extremely fast. So they came back immediately with the DNA analysis, and it indicated that 3 of the assaults were all perpetrated by the same individual. And they all matched Birmingham's DNA on all 3 of these victims. So 3 of the victims evidently did have DNA, and and it was very conclusive with all this other evidence that Robert Todd Birmingham was the blue light rapist. So at that moment, they were like, it's him. So on September 15th, 1997, so this is literally 2 months after Shannon's ordeal. I would say a few days less, possibly. Birmingham is arrested on multiple charges of kidnapping, rape, and aggravated robbery. So J.R. Howard states in the show that when Birmingham was arrested, there was just this tremendous relief and excitement that they were able to get to him before he had killed someone. Because that's really what they felt like he was leading up to. Like
No, I agree. Totally.
Yeah. They were very concerned that he was just going to get violent or something was going to escalate. So they were just super excited about, not about that this happened, but just that they got him. So when Birmingham was arrested, he was locked up in Cross County Jail on a $300,000 bond. And to my knowledge, it did not state anything, and we'll kind of get into some particulars later, but I don't believe he was able to bond out. So he was just stuck. When interviewed, Birmingham denied any involvement in any of the crimes. He stated he believed the rapist deserved the electric chair. He said he didn't own any type of handgun or blue light. However, like everyone that the police would have talked to, because they were still continuing their investigation. They still, even though they're
getting ready for a trial.
Yes, they're still putting things together. So everyone that they talked to, all the associates and friends, people that knew Todd, had very incriminating things to say. So one of his associates that used to be friends with Todd was said to say when the police came to call on him about Todd, he immediately said, "You're here to talk about those women that Todd raped." And he said, "I don't talk to that." Immediately. And he said, "I don't talk to that SOB anymore." And went further to say verbatim that Todd was one twisted mother. Yes.
Wow.
Just immediately said that. So, yeah. And I mean, that just bothers me on so many levels. But
I'm looking at pictures of him on Google Images, and he's not what
I know
you would expect. I would expect someone to be bigger and more hair on that. I mean, more facial hair. I don't know.
Yeah,
not that there's anything wrong with that. My husband has a beard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying he doesn't look like a big, scary dude. But I guess when
well, and like I talked about before, like I guess they clean him up fairly well, and of course you can't smell him through a picture. But
I'm sure he stinks. Yeah.
I mean, the way he didn't look the way the women describe. I mean, like I said, he kind of looked like an insurance salesman, just kind of,
not that there's anything wrong with selling insurance. He did not age well either.
No, he did not age well. Yeah. So, yeah, but he just looked like very, not like a rapist person you
He
think
just
would
looks like
look,
a
I
weirdo.
guess.
Just like a little weirdo.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely, guess knowing what you know, but
Yeah.
yeah. But he didn't look, he just looked like an average person, like a,
Yeah. And that in itself is
unassuming.
scary. That
It
is
is
very
scary. It's
scary.
very scary. Just like Ted Bundy. I mean, everybody talked about how handsome Ted Bundy is. I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I never understood that. Because to me, he wasn't handsome. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
Maybe
think he
he's not
was
my
either.
cup of tea, or maybe the 70s was just not my thing, but
Yeah.
I didn't see it. He wasn't a Brad Pitt for sure.
No,
So
definitely.
whatever. Moving forward. So, yes, so that friend was obviously knew right away that what they were there to talk to him about. Other people stated how they had seen Todd with a revolver, which was the weapon that the victim stated he had. So some of them said, I believe the word used was revolver or pistol, and he had mentioned that he had never had one of those. Oh yeah, he just had stolen rifles in the back of his cars. So no big whoop. But more investigating goes on, and they did discover that her name is Angie, Todd's wife, had traded in their Cutlass Oldsmobile in 1996 for a 1991 Mercury Cougar that was maroon. And furthermore, that Todd had owned a white Chevy pickup truck and a blue-gray Chevy Blazer. Now,
So
remember?
all of the cars.
So he had several different cars, and so that's kind of why the vehicles weren't necessarily matching up with everything. So in an article I found from it's a Arkansas Gazette, Texarkana, I don't know. In 2016, Special Agent McWhirter is discussing the blue light rapist case. I guess he's discussing several of his cases. And he said that the blue light came from a time when Todd served time in a county jail and he stole the blue light.
He swiped it?
He swiped it.
Oh my
so
God.
That's what he stated. On February 6, 1998, Todd Birmingham pled not guilty in Cross County, and his first trial was set for May of 1998, so just a few months later. His attorney tried filing for a change of venue, but this was denied. The attorney also tried to get the evidence suppressed relating to all the DNA type evidence, like the blood and urine and the hair samples, but this was also denied. An attorney did ask for a mental health evaluation for Todd, which was approved. And so this would delay the trial date, kind of set things back of May. So between June 23rd and July 8th, Todd was committed to the Arkansas State Hospital for the evaluation. Todd was deemed competent after that time to stand trial. So now the new trial date was set for September. So, and this trial is pertaining to Shannon's case, okay? So Todd's attorney, it was something named Emmis. He asked to be Sorry. I've got multiple pages here of my script, and I had to see. So Emmis got himself or asked to be removed from the case, citing stress and high blood pressure. And so the judge then had to appoint a new attorney. This was a public defender by the name of David Bonadello. I don't know how to spell that, and hopefully I said that right, but Benadella? I don't know. Once the jury was selected in October of 98, the trial there in Cross County began November 17th of 1998. So the state's DNA expert, his name was Dr. Kermit Channel, stated that the chance of the DNA not being Todd was 1 in a trillion.
Wow. I mean,
so
that is crazy. Yeah.
Yes. The podcast that I listened to did know, and I will share, eventually. All of my references, you know how I do. So
Right.
the podcast note states that there was more evidence than just the DNA. You had all the circumstantial plus the victim's testimony before Shannon, testified. And then there was fiber that were matching and latent prints. So he was matching, it was 1 in a trillion on his DNA, and then all of this other. This was
when the DNA stuff really started breaking wide open. So,
and they had blood and
him.
urine. Yes. Yeah. Blood and urine. And this isn't even, nowadays they can use that. What do they call it? The mitochondrial DNA, which is maybe like the touch DNA.
Mm-hmm.
This is like legit DNA. He wasn't trying to hide any of his DNA. So the trial, started on 17th. On November 26th, so not even, 10 days later, after a 5-hour deliberation, the jury came back and counted him guilty on all counts. So they sentenced him to a maximum of 40 years for the actual, sexual assault, and then another 20 years, which would run concurrent for the robbery and kidnapping and such. So, yes. So, yay and yay. So they gave him the maximum time frame on that. So, moving forward. So, Todd Birmingham, he still faced the charges in Lee County. So they had him in Cross County. This was for Shannon's. He still had actually another case in Lee County, which was one of the other victims. So they initially tried him there in Lee County, kind of in the same time frame, maybe a little after this, but there was a mistrial. It doesn't state a whole lot about what happened, but the jury was a hung jury. So yes.
Oh,
so I don't know, it just was a different case. It was different people, a different county and everything. So I don't know if they just did not have, the same, I don't know what it was. They did not say. And we'll kind of get into more because I am going to have possibly another episode of this, but they would eventually retry the case. So by the time they retried it and everything, in the year 2000 in Lee County, he was convicted on all counts. So he was eventually convicted also in Lee County, but it took a few years to do that. And he was given an additional 40-year sentence.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay. So they gave him the maximum on both counts. All during this time, Birmingham retained his innocence. Like, he has never said, oh, I did it. Never. He has repeatedly said that he was innocent. And he continued, to file numerous appeals. So in 2000, the Arkansas Supreme Court did uphold Todd's first conviction. And they cited the DNA evidence and the 1 in a trillion chance of the attacker being someone other than Birmingham. Like, there was just no way, no way that they were not going to go with that ruling. So even in 2006, so 6 years after his second, trial and finally got convicted for that, he did file for clemency. And Arkansas Governor Mike Beebe at that time, he denied that request. And in that article, I found an article from this ktbs.com, it stated that Todd was from the Pine Tree community, which was in St. Francis County. So it kind of mentioned that he was from Wynn, but it's in reality, I guess, Pine Tree. So it's very close. In the docudrama, Shannon Woods herself was interviewed and stated after the attack and the conviction of Birmingham, like, she didn't want to talk about her assault. She just wanted to put it out of her mind. She didn't want to talk about it. She, can you imagine? I just can't even imagine. I wouldn't want to rehash that or whatever. So for many years, she kept silent. She didn't want to talk about it. She just wanted to live her life. So then she did decide that she would become an advocate for all, for what she went through and for all other women that face the same thing. So according to an article in the Daily Citizen of Searcy, in 2017, Shannon, who was the victim of the blue light rapist, worked with State Representative Tim Lemons on a law named Shannon's Law that did pass. So there is a law that is her namesake. So they began working in 2015, and Shannon's Law makes it illegal for civilians to have a blue light or any other law enforcement device.
Good.
Yes. So
That should have been passed a long time ago.
yes, you go, Shannon. So yay. And so J.R. Howard, additionally in the show, and I think J.R. Howard's kind of like, I think I have a little crush. So he's like,
Lord.
I don't even know what. he's like, law enforcement crush. But anyway, he did such a good job in the show. And I'm going to link this show because you guys really need to watch it. But the show says that he said that he admired Shannon more than his vocabulary could express.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that sweet? I mean, that's just,
definitely,
I don't know. That's just the sweetest thing. So
yes, definitely.
Kind of a little more tidbit of information here. So in early 2020, Robert Todd Birmingham would be hospitalized for contacting COVID-19 virus.
I remember when that happened.
Mm-hmm. So it hit, he was in the Cummins unit.
Right.
Yes. And so articles state that after 3 weeks in hospital, he would pass away from acute hypoxemic respiratory failure. I probably said that wrong. According to Find a Grave, and not sure who wrote this but his quote unquote sinful body was donated to science.
Oh.
And he was 54 years old. Shannon would be, so when this happened in 2020, it was a huge deal. So all of the news people, they ran many reports, and they all pretty much said the same thing, just that he had gotten COVID-19 and he passed away. So at the age of 54, and you probably saw that picture of him. I mean, he looked rough. She stated so people were coming back to Shannon and interviewing her, all over the place about that. And so she did say she was neither happy nor sad about this, but she was relieved. She was relieved that he could never get out of jail. And also, he had been kind of in and out of the hospital for many years before this. Right. And so she was thankful that he couldn't escape either. That was always kind of in the back of her mind. So
of course.
So she was very relieved to be, he couldn't file any more clemencies. He couldn't escape when he was in hospital. But she did state she felt, for his family members and just showing what an amazing person that she is, after everything that he did to her and what he put her and the other victims through, she still is able to think about his family and his poor family. And he has a large family base, it looks like, that are all still here in Arkansas. So, yeah. So I told you that I had filed that's really all I have as far as my part 2. However, I did file for the FOIA request on this case file. So the Arkansas State Police, I have a friend, we're like besties now. I'm just kidding. He did contact me, and I have received, in fact, I'd already typed up everything. I already had this ready, but yesterday I did receive about 200 pages. So I will be going through the actual case file, and that's going to take me a little bit of time, obviously. So there will probably be a part 3, just probably something to kind of give us a little more information and closure, because there really wasn't a lot of information, real information, because of the nature of the crimes released. Does that make sense?
Right.
So there just wasn't. So yeah. So I'm going to be going through the case file and following up with that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. All right.
So sad deal. Very sad. Very sad. But yeah. So, and I did. So now, to banter a little bit, I did, and also to business banter, but I had filed the FOIA request for the second investigation file on Janie Ward. So did we already was there 2 episodes already out on Janie, or 3? Do you remember? Was it just 2?
I don't remember now.
Okay, I'll have to look.
That's how many we have. I don't remember.
I mean, this is 40, Amber. This is,
I know,
we're huge. So They had told me it's going to be a while. I have 2,000 pages to go through
Oh,
of
okay.
that. So they did
that's gonna
send
be a
me.
while.
Yeah. So I'm going to be working my way through that. So there will be a follow up, definitely on this one, definitely on Janie coming soon. But that's going to be kind of further down the road. I want to spend some time on it and such. But you need to talk about your upcoming episode.
Oh, I do. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you should.
our next one, number 41, will be Hell's Half Acre, and I won't give too much away, but we had a weird little adventure this week, actually trying to find it. We didn't find it, but I did find out a lot of stuff about it. So I do have the inside scoop about what it is, where it is, and how it got its name.
We had a fun time in, I just blanked out, Hot Springs.
Yes.
We had a good time.
We did.
We ate at your favorite place, Rolando's, and you made me eat outside.
Yes, it was very good.
And I don't do that, but it was very good food. And I'm very sore even today, I think, because I was a little sore today.
Yeah,
from our adventure.
I've been sore for 48 hours since that little hike, but we'll talk all about our hike and all that on the next episode. So what do you have as far as listener stuff? Do you have any mail today?
I don't have any listener stuff. No mail to discuss on this episode, but we do really appreciate all of the stuff going on. So, and we do have a big announcement that will be coming out. Coming soon. So yay, we're super excited. And please go see us on the Patreon. You know, for just $1 on our Patreon, you can get access to our scary heifers, which we're about to drop like another episode next week of scary heifers. So the Patreon people, you know, they're digging
getting extra stuff. Yeah.
They're getting extra stuff. So just for $1, you can do that. And then also go, you know, of course, follow us on all the stuff. Please, everybody, we have a huge Facebook following. So go follow us on Instagram
and
as
YouTube.
Well. And
we
YouTube,
need more followers on YouTube.
Yes. And we are clicking upwards every day. So I don't know. Do you follow that?
It's very exciting. Yes.
It is very exciting. And our streaming. So you guys are killing it. Continue to kill it for us.
Yes,
we appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
So yay.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, that's all we have on part 2 of the Blue Light Rapist. We will be back for another episode really soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Love ya.